Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Irene Darville. I am from Victory Home Builders. We are a real estate development company in the Denver metro area. We are actively involved in the acquisition, construction, and resale of our projects. I would like to talk to you today about the art of balancing budget, time, and quality. These are sometimes called the iron triangle. They're very important in real estate development. Very, very important. The budgeting, the timeline, and the quality of your project. I'll start by talking a little bit about the budgeting. The budgeting involves the labor cost, the construction cost, and the overhead. So whenever we acquire a property or we're looking to acquire a property, we're always mindful of what it will cost us to handle this project financially. And so we have our scope of work. We'll first of all do just a rough sketch of what it will cost. And then once we acquire the property and it's now in our business name, we do a thorough line item of what needs to be done. For example, we do things like the permitting, the budget, the dumpster, electrical, plumbing, and all, the whole bunch of them. And now it depends on the kind of project that we're going to be working on. If it's a full construction, every item on our pre-established scope of work will be filled out. So we have the labor cost and the cost of materials. The cost of materials is pretty easy because that's the one that most of the time stay pretty much consistent. We've done enough so we know what our electrical trimming would cost, for example, or what we'll be spending for our appliances, for instance, or the drywall. So we'll already know how to schedule that in. We have relationships with suppliers, and they give us good distance, and we already know what those items are gonna cost. The part that a lot of the times move will be the labor cost. Depending on the project we're working on, we may use one sub or another sub. Maybe it's a new build for a mid-size neighborhood. We use a particular builder. If it's going to be a luxury home, we're probably going to use a different kind of builder. And that would determine the labor cost. Now, one thing I also found, I've been in the industry now for probably close to 10 years. Just because someone charges me a particular amount of money, like maybe $100,000, and somebody else charges me maybe $50,000, doesn't mean the quality are going to be commensurate with what they're charging me. Just because someone charges you $100,000 and another one charges you $50,000 doesn't mean that the $100,000 contractor is going to give you a better quality of work. It just means that's how he prices himself. And I can respect that. But I have to do my due diligence and comb the market and determine for myself who's going to give me what I'm looking for. You have to understand that dynamics and get the right person for the job. So you talk about the cost, the labor, and of course the overhead. You cannot do a construction project without overhead or putting extra funds aside for who knows what. Something always seems to happen. So, like, for example, when I'm taking my scope of work to maybe a hard money lender, for instance, and they don't see any overhead, set aside money for overhead, they're not going to take me seriously because everybody knows things always happen here and there in projects. So you always have to consider that extra 10%, sometimes maybe 15%. If you're going on the chartered ground waters where you're not too sure about this project, I will make it up to 15%. All right, so you have to have that for your budgeting. And then, of course, timing. Timing is also very important. You might have the best deal, the best construction crew, but if the timing is not proper, you quickly start losing money. Now, one thing I do, for example, acquiring a land to purchase, I like to negotiate before I close my deal. I like to negotiate with the seller and say, oh, would you allow me start my permit process before we close? That's a good one. A lot of the times they would let me start the process. So I get my architect, we get the drawing, we get things going. Now, that's not the normal way, but once you get into the game and you understand how things work, you might be able to have that kind of advantage. So for me, I try to get that going before I close my deal. Get the architect, get my drawing, get it done, and start submitting. I'll do my soil report, I'll do my survey. I start all the work such that by the time we close, I'm either ready to submit my plans to the city, or may have even submitted the plan to the city. So you might say you cheat there a little. So that's how you can gain some time, because guess what? During the project, things might happen and you lose maybe a few weeks. Sometimes you could even lose months. So if I start ahead of time, I'll gain some time by starting my permit process before I close my deal. So that's one way of cheating time. But what if you don't have that advantage, or you don't have that knowledge of, or maybe you don't have that advantage of doing something like that before you close? Once you close, if you know you're going to do a demo, you already have to talk to your crews, talk to whoever you need to talk to, get your price solid before closing, such that on the day of closing, for example, if you don't need permit, you have your dumpster there, you have your demo crew, they start the work right away, and while they're doing that, you already have all your items that you're going to be purchasing all lined up. You already contacted maybe Home Depot. If you use Home Depot, for example, you should have a dedicated person at Home Depot that even before you close, you send your scope of work to them. I have a dedicated rep, for example, in Home Depot. I send my scope of work to them, and they bid on every item on my list. I like using Home Depot. They bid on every item, and I take those bid. I go shop around with it as well, but I like to use them. They give me all my lumber, they give me all the different things, and I already have somebody that worked there with me, and they already know what I want, so they just give me all my items. So that really helped me a lot to save time. So as the project goes on, you have to know what items comes before the other. You have to be able to understand that and just stack your subs one after the other. Now, you hear me say sub. That's because I GC my own project. If you don't GC your own project, you need to know that your GC is working like that for you. Well, that's why he's a GC or she's a GC. They need to be able to know how to stack subs one after the other. There's some subs that you can stack together. There's some you have to wait for one to be done before the other comes in. And I will give you instances on that as I go deeper into timing. So that's timing there. And of course, quality. I said to you initially when we were talking about labor and cost, I said just because they're so expensive doesn't mean they're going to give me the best quality. And sometimes what I found out with contractors in terms of quality, they may give one customer great quality, and then that customer recommends them to you and say, oh, this guy does great work. Use them. What they didn't tell you was how they were managing that person. They may be a good contractor for one person and be a total mess for somebody else because they're not being managed. So I say most contractors, not all of them, most contractors need to be managed by the owner. So you have to overlook what they're doing, know if they're leaving your project and go to somewhere else to go start up another project, because a lot of them do that. So you have to have that eye to see and say, is this guy playing game with my project or not? So you as a owner of the project need to know if a GC or if a sub is playing that game with you. And you need to stop it right on the track and say, no, we have to do this. You have to get this going. Yes, you have to manage your GC as well, fortunately or unfortunately, you would say. But for us in Victory Home Builders, we manage our project right now. We are the GC of our project. So we get all the different subs at the different times. And of course, you have to look at the quality. And I think something you get with time and experience, you're able to sieve out those that, the fly-by-night or fly-by-day, whatever kind of GC, and you get the good quality ones, and you already know your crew, you know the quality of their work, And don't leave your project too long. You'll always go there at least a couple of times a week. If you're working with a GC, if you are the GC, of course you can afford to do that. You go there even multiple times than that because you're the contact person. If they need anything, you're the one they're going to call. So you have to show up anyway, and you're going to be seeing any lapses as you go to your project. I think that's one of the ways we are able to, set a good standard for our project, and we always come out with excellent quality work. All right, something I also observe about quality. A lot of the finished items that you see online or even at Home Depot, just generally, most of them have the same quality. A lot of them that I purchase, they have the same quality. But what makes my project look maybe like a high quality work, in instance, is the selection, the choices of maybe the color code that you use. For example, you have to choose the right color combo for the walls, the right trimmings, the right door knobs and, cabinet knobs. They're really not far apart. Like if I choose gold or silver, they're not far apart in price. The difference in prices might be like 2 or 3 cents. It's the person that's coordinating the project together. That's what really matters. That's what makes the house look more quality than not. But of course, it's the finish work, for example, the guy that does the painting or the guy that does the texture. Those are finished work that needs to show, it needs to be visually appealing to the eyes, so to speak. So you do not compromise on your finishes. Of course, don't compromise on anything anyway, but those finishes, they need to look button perfect. They need to look very well. So you need to be showing up even more often at your project during the finishing stages of the project. So you can look at the quality in terms of the person that's doing the labor, how detail-oriented are they? It's very easy to tell. Once you can just tell them to do a little portion, for example, if you've not used maybe a drywaller or a drywaller that does the finish work, that does the texture or the painting. If you've not used them before, you're not sure of his work, just give him a wall in a house and tell him to do that wall and see what he does. If he's able to give you a good knockdown texture, for example, if that's what you want, you will be fine. And then you can tell him to finish. And do not pay ahead of time. I know some people say, oh, you give them money. I don't pay ahead of time. You do the work. I don't pay for labor that is not done. I pay for the materials, but not labor. How will I pay for labor that you've not given me? I'll pay labor as it is done. So if I don't like the labor, it is written in my agreement that I have to be satisfied with the labor to pay you. Now, understandably, I don't have to wait 100% for them to finish the work, because if it's a large project, it might take them days and days. But I can start paying as I see the work. I can divide the payment into 3 parts. I say, oh, when you're done with the first floor, I'll pay you a third. When you're done with the second floor, I'll pay you the second or the second third, things like that. So don't just shoot out the money, because you could tempt a good man to run away with your money and go do another job or something. So that's how I manage to make sure I control the quality of my work. If I don't like it, I have not paid you yet. You got to redo it until I'm okay with the work, and then you get paid. That's one of the ways that I do quality control of my project. And of course, safety is very important. And it's all on that quality. Durability, do not compromise on buying good project. Think of good product. Think about it. When a buyer comes into your house, if they see, it's easy to see compromises. They'll leave your house. But if you do not compromise on your quality, you do not compromise and give a little bit more. And giving a little bit more is really not that much. You can spend maybe $1,000, $2,000 more and make your project look like you spent $20,000 more. It's just being thoughtful. It's just being thoughtful and choosing the right finishes, for instance. Like the doors, the 6-panel doors in my area, 6-panel door, they taken as like basic doors. The difference between a 6-panel door and a 2-panel door, they're not much at all. Maybe a few dollars. So why do a 6-panel door when I can do the 2-panel door and make it look, high quality? So it's just a little tweak here and there that shines through in the quality and your finished product. Customer satisfaction, of course, that is on the quality. We build houses so we can sell, right? So remember, it's the acquisition, it's the construction, and of course, it's the resale. So the customer satisfaction is also very important so that when we go to the market, we have confidence in the quality of the product that we've produced. And of course, we'll have buyers sooner than later, and our property will be on the top list of whoever comes to look at our project. That's all I want to talk to you about today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining me through this, and I hope I gave you good quality time. Today, we talked about the budget, the time, and quality, and I spoke as a project manager. Next time, I will be talking to you as an investor, how the numbers line up. What happens when the numbers don't line up? I'll see you next time.